Oh my goodness. Listen, I had a whole other video series I wanted to get started with you today, and I'm going to get it together. I got a video series I'm working on right now. I'm putting together an outline, and I was going to get started on this next. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a video series discussing the future of Bitcoin, my beliefs, my opinions on the market going up, the market going down, long term. What are the major things that we need to be looking for, we need to be watching for, we need to be reading about to give us an idea about where cryptocurrency technology, blockchain technology, and Bitcoin are going to go in the future. And I can play out several scenarios. People will always say, how can it possibly get to mass adoption? Or don't you think governments are going to try to stop it? And don't you think governments are going to try to regulate it? Do you want governments to regulate it? Do you not want governments regulating it? What if they kill it? Can't they kill it? And some people think, no, they'll never kill Bitcoin. There's absolutely no way to kill it. And I actually have some different opinions on that, and I'm going to share those opinions over a series of 3, probably 6 different videos. But before I get to that, I keep seeing these news stories, and I love to put out news stories that just show the viability. I love to comment on news stories that just show the viability in the Bitcoin space and the cryptocurrency space. So I'm always checking out the Bitcoin news. And this article, this headline caught me right here, and it's so crazy and ridiculous. Listen, I always say follow the money. Everybody has a bias. Look at the bias. Check this out. Warren Buffett, which I need to tell you, in my past, I am a huge fan of Warren Buffett as a whole. What this man has accomplished is extraordinary by any measure of any human being in human history has never accomplished what he's been able to accomplish in the traditional stock market. A real bubble, billionaire Warren Buffett doubles down on his Bitcoin doubt is what it says. Here's the challenge. And before we even get into this article, you need to understand Warren Buffett. This is kind of like what David Hay said about Jamie Dimon. I mean, Warren Buffett, I believe, is in his 80s. He may be in his mid to late 80s. I just saw a documentary on him like last month, actually, on YouTube. It was a good documentary. But he's in his way late 80s, I believe, or middle 80s. Here's the challenge, though. Like, you can't expect him to have the full understanding. He has a different life experiences. All of us, our belief systems, our convictions are basically the sum of our experiences and how we've internalized those experiences. So he's lived on this planet for so long. For this technology to basically show up in his life for him to comment on when he's in his 80s, then clearly he's going to have a bias. And when you consider the fact that the vast majority of his net worth is in a traditional old school model that I believe will probably be here for a long time. The traditional stock market, and he's if you don't know who Warren Buffett is, he's known basically for buy and hold. He buys stocks when he thinks they're selling for less than what they're worth, based off the fundamentals of a company, based off the market influences, based off of the product and the customers. He's a little bit of a mathematician in that area as well. So he likes to buy companies that are cheap when they're cheap, and he likes to hold on to them basically forever. And he likes to look at numbers that he can compute. Like, he likes to come to a valuation for a company. He likes to try to figure out how much a company is currently worth, and he does that by looking at all their assets, all their inventories, probably calculating market share as well. I mean, he's doing a lot of that stuff, and he's looking at that, and he's realizing, hey, they're valued far less than what they're currently selling for in the stock market. So if I buy them now, sooner or later the market's going to catch up with them and the price is going to go up. So he likes to look at those hard valuations, if you will. The problem with cryptocurrency, there is no hard valuation. There is no physical asset. And so his method of valuation is outdated. So he cannot comprehend, and some people, he's not the only one, a lot of people struggle with this. Jamie Dimon struggles with this. They can't comprehend, how can there be a real asset? How can there be something of value if there's nothing there? But look, it's no different than the dollar. Why is a dollar worth a dollar? There is not a physical asset behind that dollar. The dollar is basically, the US dollar is basically an institution. and it's basically, we've at one point it did not get established as a piece of paper. At one point it was backed by a real valuable commodity, which was gold or silver back then. Today it's no longer backed by gold and silver. We were trained, we were institutionalized, we were programmed to believe that that dollar has a certain value. And at some point, the backing behind that dollar, the real tangible value behind that dollar was removed. Well, we still believe the dollar has a value. In this day and age, currency is worth what people are willing to pay for it on the foreign exchange market. The value is decided by what the market believes that it's valued at. And there's a lot of reasons for this. The US dollar tends to be strong because a lot of people accept the dollar. It's been a stable currency, therefore it's valued well. When there's market turmoil, a lot of other countries and other people in other countries will sometimes buy US dollars because it's known to be a more stable currency. When they buy US dollars, the value of our dollar goes up. It gets a little bit stronger. That has nothing to do with the intrinsic physical value of that dollar at all. Bitcoin is very similar. Bitcoin's value is, its major concrete value is basically in understanding what it is. It is a decentralized, non-hackable, it is a totally transparent, open source technology that allows you to be able to store value, to send value, to receive value. In other words, store money, a value of money, send a value of money, receive a value of money in a totally transparent way on what's called the blockchain. That is its number one value premise, and it's decentralized. And why is decentralization important? Well, Warren Buffett is a great example. I mean, what he does every day is an example of why we want decentralization as a little guy, as a normal, Joe Smith on the street or whatever. Check this out. So he makes all of his money basically in stocks. Well, here's the thing. And this is a short article, and it basically says you can't value Bitcoin because it's not a value producing asset. Again, by that logic, dollars have no value. So he says Bitcoin is a real bubble, again, because it has no value. So here's the thing. And Bitcoin may be in a bubble, by the way. That has nothing to do with its value, but it doesn't mean that it's going to drop to nothing. Bitcoin has a solid, tangible value. Bubbles exist in every market all the time. But if you want to know where a real scam is, it's a scam that people like Mr. Warren Buffett, who's worth something like $60 billion. Sorry about that. Mr. Warren Buffett, who's worth something like $60 billion, 90 billion, 40 billion, who knows, who counts at that point. But here's the thing. He does this by investing in the stock market, the traditional stock market. So a share of stock, if you bought a share of stock in the stock market, one share, that stock is selling at somewhere between 15 on the low side, maybe 20, 30, 50, maybe even 100 times the value produced by the company. Meaning it's selling at a multiple of 100 times what the company produces in value. And that is normal in the stock market. But this is robbery, because if you were to buy a small company outright, like if you bought some sort of a, consumer goods company, or if you bought a restaurant, or if you bought any other traditional company outright, normally it's going to sell for 2 times annual earnings. It's going to sell for 3 times, maybe 5 times annual earnings. That's what it's going to sell for. So if the company produces, hypothetically $100,000 a year, then you're going to pay somewhere between $200,000 and $500,000 for that company. That is how it works with most companies, except if you're buying a company on Wall Street, if you're buying a share of a company on Wall Street. That share, so let's just say that you're buying, XYZ company, and it's got 1 million outstanding shares. The total value of those 1 million outstanding shares may be 50 times what the company's annual earnings is worth. It may be, 30 times the company's annual earnings, 15 times the company's annual earnings. Who's buying these shares of stocks? It's for the most part, it's average mom and pops. It's average John and Joe, Jane and Mary on the street in their retirement accounts. That's where the overwhelming majority of all stock investing occurs. It's in people's retirement accounts through large investment firms and bankers. That is an absolute ripoff. And yet, someone like Warren Buffett can say that Bitcoin can say that Bitcoin is a scam or is a fraud. What's a fraud is a company selling for 50 times earnings. That's a fraud. And we buy into that every day. And I'm not trying to say the stock market is horrible. I have made money in the stock market. I'm just saying that if you're going to call Bitcoin a fraud, let's look at this from both angles. And here's the other thing. Those stock certificates don't even produce actual dividends anymore. So how do we determine what the price of that stock is ultimately worth? It's just what someone else is willing to pay for it on the open market. By the way, which is the same way that we actually value a US dollar, and it's also the same way that we value a Bitcoin. What is someone else willing to pay for it on the open market? What is someone else willing to pay to have the access to that product and what that product provides? For the Bitcoin, it's decentralized currency where you're not, the little guy's not going to ultimately get screwed over the same way that he gets screwed over every single day when he's trying to invest in the stock market in his retirement account. I hate to get hyped up on this. I hate to get you can probably tell that it just gets my blood boiling, but it's, you know, I respect Warren Buffett like there is no tomorrow. This man has lived an incredible life, accomplished some incredible things. He's a unique individual. There may never be another gentleman like this ever. I mean, what he's accomplished is crazy, and he's been fortunate enough to live a long life, and he stayed very consistent throughout his entire life in his methodologies and what he's doing. Now imagine if you're young and you're in your 20s or 30s, or even if you're, you know, 18 or 19, and you use that same consistency in Bitcoin today. Well, my next series of videos that I start putting out here in the next week or so, I'm going to talk about what can happen in the future of Bitcoin. You have to make your own investment device. You have to make your own investment decisions. This isn't investing advice, but do your own research. Research multiple sources. But at the end of the day, invest in cryptocurrency. Invest in Bitcoin technology, blockchain technology. Learn about it. Watch it. You tend to pay more attention and learn more about it once you actually get your hands dirty, so to speak, or get your hands wet. Go ahead, buy, you know, your first $100 in Bitcoin or whatever it takes. Also, the real tragedy of this entire thing is that at least when you got dividends, you got passive income. You don't even get that anymore. With Bitcoin, there are so many different ways you can get passive income, and I'm going to cover that in another video. In fact, my very next video, I'm going to compare traditional stock investing to what's available in Bitcoin, basically. I believe. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, click that bell notification, click the thumbs up. Comment below. Tell me what you think about what Warren Buffett says. If you are already in this space, tell me what you think. Give me your opinions, your feedback. Do you agree with what I've said? Do you disagree with what I've said? Just let me know. Thanks for watching.